Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in our communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth.
In the U.S., it is Monday, July 15th, 2024. In South Africa, mining companies devastate local communities, threatening critical resources. We'll show you how their efforts have transformed this once thriving farm town. And in Nigeria, it may look like a wrestling match, but it's really a tradition. This community is celebrating the completion of their planting season. Plus a look at pre-birth soul agreements. What are they, and how do they help guide your life? The media claims former U.S. President Donald Trump was nearly assassinated on Saturday at a rally in Pennsylvania. But what really happened? And South Africa's state-owned utility company Eskom struggles with unpaid debt, impacting profitability and resulting in frequent power outages.
This is Calen Gipp, messenger for United Network News. Here's a look at today's field messenger reports from all around the world. The communities in Mozambique, South Africa are fighting for survival as mining companies devastate the area, threatening the last water resources with new operations. UNN field messenger Nelia highlights the struggle of this once thriving farm town.
Hello, my name is Nelia, field messenger for United Network News, and I'm reporting from Bosoek in the northwest province of South Africa. Today I want to show you what is happening in this area. Bosoek, a once thriving farm town, known for its vegetable production and central collection point for rural communities, is now facing the destructive consequences of rapid mining expansion. Over the past 2 decades, numerous mines have sprung up all around Bosoek. Bosoek's transformation from an agricultural haven into a mining-centered town has had devastating consequences on its environment, economy, infrastructure, and social fabric. The depletion of underground water sources, the absence of essential services like healthcare and law enforcement, and the proliferation of informal settlements have made life increasingly difficult for its residents. Farmers being forced off the land are unable to relocate. The congested road, filled with trucks transporting mine ore, have compromised road and pedestrian safety and impeded emergency responses. In addition, the contamination resulting from chrome wash plants further damages underground water supplies and accelerates the environmental degradation in the area. Urgent action is needed to address these issues, to safeguard both the well-being of Bosoek's residents and the long-term sustainability of the town's resources. Thank you for listening.
In southeastern Nigeria, at the end of the planting season, villagers gather in town squares to watch youth wrestling competitions. UNN field messenger Ugwumba Obasi shares this exciting tradition.
Hello, I'm Ugwumba Obasi from Southeast Nigeria, reporting for the United Network News. Our mode of entertainment. Our community has a very rich cultural heritage, an aspect of which is the way we entertain ourselves. Towards the end of every planting season, when the farming workload has lessened, we gather at the village square to watch young men who challenge themselves to restore. In this way, the community is able to select among the young men of varied age grade those to be featured in the inter-village wrestling competition, which is always a yearly event. Thank you for watching Ugwumba Obasi for the United Network News.
We want you to become a UNN field messenger. These are everyday people just like you who want to make a difference in their community. You don't need any special training or equipment. Just use the camera on your mobile phone and show us what's happening in your area. You send us your videos and our production team will create the report for you. Our website is now up and running at unitednetwork.earth. You can submit your Field Messenger reports directly through the Field Messenger tab at the top of the page. You can also email your reports to our email address at fieldmessenger@unitednetwork.earth.
Hey, I'm Kirsten from Switzerland.
This is Wayne from Tucson.
Hi, my name is Desmond from Ghana.
I am Claudia from Dawsonville, Georgia.
I'm Marky from Pretoria, South Africa.
Hi, I'm Steve McGrath, Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada.
People from all around the world are coming together.
Happy day, beautiful world. We are here in a rather small urban garden, and this video is just to show you the joys that we've had in this garden with the electric gardening.
When news happens in their area, they show us what's really going on.
We have people in the streets protesting for and against.
At United Network News, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Field Messenger Helen reporting with nature, and I'm going to talk to you about the bees again.
Take the next step in restoring our planet. Become a UNN field messenger today.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from South Africa. If it's going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
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 It's up to all of us. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.
Living life in the 3D can be difficult at times, and to get through these moments, it helps to know that there's a reason for everything you're experiencing. It's based on your pre-birth agreement, sometimes referred to as a soul contract. Kelly Bowker is an angelic channeler who offers practical advice on creating your best life. Kelly is back with us again today, and Kelly, we're talking about pre-birth agreements. Sometimes we say that these are soul contracts. And I want to just explore what that is. And, you know, is there any way to, this sounds bad, but, you know, are you stuck with the same contract? Can you make amendments? Can you cancel a contract? What's going on here, Kelly?
Good questions. Really good questions. Well, I can just share the perspective that my guides have given me. Okay. And this is a big topic. Yes, there are absolutely pre-birth agreements. We pick our parents. We pick what sex we come forward. We pick where on the planet. We actually pick what planet. Ooh, there's a topic for another day. But there's all kinds of places to incarnate. And we decide what is it that we want to get. What do we want to learn? What do we want to discover, experience in this in particular incarnation? What my guides have shown me, they literally show me like a big boardroom table. Okay. And lots of loving beings sitting around the table. And that could be your guides. It could be angels. It could be loved ones who've passed away that are counseling the spirit who's deciding to come forth. And they're all kind of talking things over and deciding what we want to have happen. So some of that might be hard because the Earth School is one of the toughest places out there. And because we have such a cadre of emotion that we have to deal with. So we are talking with these counsel that give us input and give us feedback on what we are going to learn. And we come up with a plan. And sometimes we're counseled that we're biting off too much. So we all know those lifetimes that there's so much awful that happens to someone. But that is the stuff that people have chosen consciously and deliberately, even though I know that for people who are suffering, that is a hard thing to wrap your mind around. But you can take that the good feeling from it that you did have a deliberate choice in this, and that there is no such thing as time. So what feels like long time suffering is just a blink once you have unzipped this meat suit and gone to the other side again. So you do make contracts, you do, and I kind of see it like they've given me this idea of like a road with road signs. So you're going along and you hit a speed bump, and you get to learn something from that speed bump. And if you don't learn it from that speed bump, the next thing might be a speed bump with a deer running out in front of you. They're very much apt to get hotter and hotter as time goes on, as you are setting out with your intention from before you come forward to gather whatever information, whatever knowing that you wanted to gather to bring back to the all. And so that's kind of how it works. I do believe there are those big things like the death of a child or near-death experiences. Those kinds of events can happen in life. And I think those are determined between the soul of the loved one who's going to die, going to get murdered, going to commit suicide, and the parent. That is agreed upon for all of the beautiful, rich potential awakening that can happen because of it. Yeah. It's a big topic.
It is. And like you said, sometimes it's really hard to appreciate what's going on here because it is about learning and it is about growing. But man, some things that life throws your way or that you're experiencing because of these soul contracts, sometimes it feels like too much. If you do feel like that's happening, is there, have your guides given you any indication that there's a way to somehow adjust it and be like, guys, I don't know if I can take this anymore? Can contracts be adjusted?
Well, we see that when we see people check out. I mean, that's not a great solution, of course, but people do get overwhelmed with what they chose and that it's too much. And so, those kinds of things do happen. But I will say emphatically that there is no judgment on the other side. There is a life review. You have to see what you've done in this world. You have to see the effects that you've had on the people around you, good and bad. So think about that the next time you smile at somebody in the grocery line. Because we get to see the effect that we have in the world. And so the judgment is your own self-judgment. If you have hurt people, you're going to have to experience that from their side. You're going to have to experience that in the life review. But no, there's no deliberately, hello God, can I change the channel here? It doesn't work that way.
Amendment here to this contract.
There's no amendment to the contract, but there is early checking out, and you have to deal with the consequences of that on the other side. But like I say, you are met with love. You're always met with love. You have to see what you've done, and then you get to decide to come back again or not at whatever you decide to do. Yeah.
Thanks to an innovative new prosthetic designed for water use, amputees can now fully enjoy the beach or pool and swimming activities. Researchers at Northwell Health have developed the Fin, a prosthetic that works both in and out of water, eliminating the need for multiple devices. Made from 3D printed carbon fiber enhanced nylon, it features holes that let water pass through smoothly. In testing, 10 amputees successfully used the Fin on their first try, noting it significantly reduced their time exiting the pool. Compared to typical swim prosthetics, the Fin is light and easy to use. It can be worn all day, allowing seamless movement from boardwalks to beaches and pools, enhancing outdoor activities with family and friends. This prosthetic ensures pure, stress-free enjoyment of water activities. In Thailand, a new approach in aquaculture called integrated multi-trophic aquaculture is transforming single-species fisheries into multi-species ecosystems. By combining fish, seaweed, and shellfish in a single environment, this method creates a balanced ecosystem that boosts productivity and reduces pollution. Traditional fish farms often struggle with high seaweed density, which can hinder growth. This new method reduces seaweed density, accelerating the growth of all species involved. As a result, local employment has surged and farmers' incomes have risen by an impressive 97%. The success of this method is encouraging more farmers to adopt this innovative approach to fish farming. By mimicking nature, this shift from traditional single-species fish farming to a multi-species ecosystem is yielding both financial and ecological benefits for the community and the environment. An American environmental architect has created the WeDo, an innovative mobile generator that turns air into fresh drinking water. This standalone energy and water generator uses waste materials like wood fragments, nutshells, or manure as fuel. When heated, these materials release water vapor into the air, which the generator then converts into drinkable water. The biomass fuel is virtually free as it uses byproducts of agriculture, forestry, or natural disasters. The system operates at a much lower cost than solar panels and occupies little space. It generates power like a diesel generator, but without the pollution. Designed for easy transport, the WeDo can be used in various environments and emergency situations. It provides communities with essential water and power, enabling refrigeration, cooling, and communication in areas with unreliable or non-existent infrastructure. The generator is invaluable for emergencies and can also support stable local economies by ensuring constant availability of water and power. We are United Network News. Every day, we release real stories from real people all over the world.
Field Messenger reporting from Gold Coast, Australia,
Denmark,
Canada,
Uganda,
from Atlanta, in Southern California.
In their own words, people like you share what's really happening in their area. At UNN, you are the news. You are creating a new world with infinite possibilities. You are the restoration plan. Come join us for the real news every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on United Network. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news. Former U.S. President Donald Trump allegedly escaped an assassination attempt during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. According to media reports, Secret Service agents shot and killed the suspect, who fired an AR-15 style rifle from a rooftop about 150 yards from Trump. The firearm, again allegedly, was legally purchased by the suspect's father, and bomb-making materials were found in his car. 2 rally attendees were said to be critically wounded. The Secret Service denies accusations of refusing extra security for Trump, saying they had enhanced protective measures recently. A UNN insider reports that a warning had gone out days before about a possible attack on a presidential candidate. Earlier that morning, Homeland Security was briefed on a possible incident at approximately 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. All other presidential candidates canceled their rallies planned for the weekend, to include Robert Kennedy, Joe Biden, and Jill Stein. This incident marks the first alleged shooting of a U.S. presidential candidate since 1981. We will have more information on what really happened at the rally coming up in our World Situation Report. Hackers have stolen call and text records from nearly all AT&T customers, affecting tens of millions of Americans. The breach spans 6 months in 2022 and 1 day on January of 2023. It includes phone numbers, text or called, and the number of times these interactions occurred, but doesn't include Social Security numbers or call content. AT&T disclosed the incident in a filing to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and said a suspect was caught. The breach also impacted non-AT&T customers using its network through mobile virtual operators. The Federal Communications Commission has opened an investigation. AT&T has enhanced its cybersecurity measures to prevent future attacks and will notify affected customers. The hack follows a previous breach in March involving sensitive personal information of millions. Also in the U.S., doctors have observed a surge in energy drink consumption amongst women since the pandemic. The U.S. energy drinks market, led by Monster, Red Bull, and Celsius, has grown significantly, with brands marketing health benefits despite doubtful claims. Experts note these products' supposed health advantages can be misleading and dangerous, particularly for those vulnerable to eating disorders. Promises of weight loss and increased fitness are especially enticing. Energy drink consumption amongst young people, especially those impacted by social media influences, has led to sleeplessness and other health issues. Many who once heavily relied on energy drinks are now working toward better dietary habits, but still struggle with caffeine dependence. Current therapeutic efforts include monitoring and reducing energy drink intake to promote healthier lifestyles and overall well-being. Multiple climate activists in Australia are facing charges under anti-protest laws for blocking significant facilities and roadways to demand urgent climate action. These laws, introduced in 2022, resulted in harsh penalties for protesters, including potential imprisonment and hefty fines. There is growing concern over the use of bail conditions, which many believe are designed to disrupt protest movements. Activists have faced restrictions like regular reporting to police, surrendering communication devices, and avoiding associations with their movements. These measures have raised alarms about the erosion of the right to protest, with claims that bail is being used to inhibit organization and increase surveillance. The government has now agreed to review the anti-protest laws, allowing for public and community input. Eskom, South Africa's state-owned utility company, is struggling with unpaid municipal debts, threatening its recovery efforts. Many municipalities can pay but haven't prioritized it, leading to a yearly rise in unpaid bills. This issue threatens Eskom's profitability after years of financial struggle and power outages. Despite recent progress with fewer blackouts, investment remains deterred. Eskom has taken legal action against Johannesburg, the country's economic hub, which refuses to settle large unpaid power bills. The court ruled Johannesburg's power utility must pay part of its debt, a decision that will be appealed. Eskom warns if Johannesburg defaults, it could set a worrying precedent for other municipalities. Despite efforts to collect the owed money, much remains unpaid. The conflict in northern Mozambique has led to a devastating increase in the abduction and forced marriages of young girls. According to a recent report, jihadi groups use kidnapping, rape, and forced marriage as warfare tactics, instilling fear in local communities. Some girls abducted at a young age endure years of captivity and abuse. The crisis has aggravated pre-existing issues related to child marriages, with families sometimes preemptively marrying off daughters to secure dowries or protection amidst economic and social collapse. According to reports, these children face increased risks of violence, trauma, and complications during pregnancy. Schools in congested and contested areas have closed, leaving more than 22,700 children without education. The war, which has caused more than 4,000 deaths and displaced 700,000 people, is entering its 8th year with no resolution in sight. A new AI-based ultrasound technology is revolutionizing maternity care in Uganda and other African countries. This software accurately dates pregnancies without specialist sonographers, easing access for expectant mothers. Staff report increased attendance and early engagement in prenatal care, crucial for addressing complications like stillbirths. Despite challenges like power failures, the technology's potential to predict high-risk pregnancies and support better decision-making is significant. This AI technology is also being used in a major study across Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa to assess aspirin doses for preventing preeclampsia, highlighting the importance of precise gestational dating. Clinical experts believe even if this is only an interim solution, it offers much needed capacity to healthcare systems in developing regions. A community along Kenya's Indian Ocean coastline is using bees to protect mangroves from illegal loggers. The beekeeper, dressed in protective clothing and equipped with a smoker, monitors beehives hidden in the mangroves. These bees act as guardians, stinging anyone attempting to cut down the trees. Mangroves are vital for preventing erosion and mitigating severe weather impacts, but more than half of the world's mangroves ecosystems are at risk due to illegal logging, climate change, and urban development. Local initiatives, including beekeeping, are helping as the honey produced provides income and the bees aid in pollination. Though efforts are ongoing, the challenge of protecting these crucial ecosystems persists as nearly half of the mangrove area is already degraded. Conservation groups are integrating livelihoods with environmental protection, hoping their efforts yield measurable results. In South Korea, unionized workers at Samsung Electronics have launched an indefinite strike to demand higher pay and better benefits. Thousands of members from the National Samsung Electronics Union had initially staged a 3-day strike, but escalated their actions due to stalled negotiations with management. The company claims production remains unaffected, although the union reports some disruptions. The union's move affects thousands of workers, causing uncertainty and stress among employees who depend on clarity around wages and working conditions. With around 120,000 employees in South Korea, the impact of the strike could extend to global operations if the situation isn't resolved. The ongoing labor dispute highlights broader issues of worker rights and corporate responsibility. Pakistan has given its army-run spy agency, the Inter-Services Intelligence, the power to tap telephone calls and messages, intensifying its significant role in national politics. Concerns have risen among opposition politicians and social media users about potential privacy violations. This decision allows the agency to intercept calls and messages to track criminal and terrorist activities with assurances that misuse will lead to legal action. Critics argue the law could still infringe on personal privacy and be exploited for political purposes. The amendment, announced in a recent government notice, has met strong opposition, with some vowing to challenge it in court. Questions about the constitutionality of this move remain unanswered as governmental bodies declined to comment. In China, fuel tankers have been used to transport cooking oil without proper cleaning after carrying toxic chemicals. This has led to widespread concern about food contamination amongst the public, with many social media users discussing the topic online. Tankers meant for fuel were found carrying food products such as cooking oil and syrup without adequate decontamination. This malpractice has reportedly become an open secret within the industry. The rising controversy has significantly dented public trust in food safety standards, drawing comparisons to past food scandals. Authorities have pledged to punish those responsible and ensure the public is informed about the investigation's results. Cocaine export revenues in Colombia have surged to $18.2 billion in 2022, predicted to surpass the oil sector. The current administration has focused on targeting drug trafficking networks rather than eradicating cocoa crops. This has led to increased production, with many rural regions suffering the consequences. In rural areas, illegal armed groups control towns with no government presence, lacking basic amenities like electricity and schools. Residents, including children, work in cocoa fields for minimal pay, often just for meals. The economic downturn in cocoa growing regions has displaced many, forcing them to cities for better opportunities and services. Some experts worry the shift from cocaine might lead farmers to other illegal activities like mining or joining armed groups. High transportation costs deter the sale of legal crops, leaving many rural Colombians reliant on illicit economies for their livelihood. In Italy, Venice has concluded its pilot program to charge day trippers a €5 entrance fee on especially busy days, a move met with criticism. Opponents argue the fee did little to reduce crowd sizes, with city data showing an average of 75,000 visitors daily during the trial, 10,000 more than previous holidays. Activists protested, claiming the fee failed to deter tourists and effectively turned Venice into a museum. Critics also raised concerns about privacy due to the surveillance system used to monitor visitor numbers. They advocate for a free booking system to avoid pricing out lower-income families and call for policies that encourage residents to return to the historic center. City officials plan to revisit the system in 2025, potentially doubling the fee to €10. Serbian authorities are accused of purging ethnic Albanians from the population register, a process known as passivation. The action affects those only who no longer reside at their registered addresses, but also individuals temporarily abroad on vacations or trips. Once removed, regaining registration proves difficult, severely impacting their ability to obtain passports and access health insurance. While the official stance is that this policy adheres to legal requirements, critics argue it disproportionately impacts ethnic Albanians, particularly those displaced since the 1999 Kosovo conflict. They suggest the goal is to reduce the Albanian population in southern Serbia, while instances of passivation in other regions remain minimal. The Serbian government denies discrimination claims, saying passivation is lawful. Finland has passed a controversial bill allowing border guards to block asylum seekers crossing from Russia. Finland accuses Russia of encouraging people from countries like Syria and Somalia to migrate as retaliation for Finland joining NATO. The government claims the bill is essential for national and European Union border security. Critics argue it violates Finland's constitution and international commitments. Finland closed its land borders with Russia late last year, and no reopening date has been set. The new law lets border guards reject asylum applications at crossing points under certain conditions, except for children, disabled individuals, and vulnerable asylum seekers. Finnish officials urge asylum seekers not to travel through Russia, denying any strategic intentions behind the movement. The Russian embassy has not commented. We have an exciting new announcement. We have launched a new global TV service specifically for the UNN community. Thousands of live TV channels, 60,000 movies on demand, over 30 languages, and live sports from around the globe. Between all the separate streaming services and cable for live TV and sports packages, it could cost well over $200 a month. But now with United TV, you can have it all for only $15.99 a month. Go to unitedtv.org and check it out. Get so much more for so much less.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The real story behind the Trump alleged assassination attempt. The signs are everywhere. You just have to know where to look. More going on behind the scenes as the deep state believe they could flip the fabric of reality with a little help from their friends.
And now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. How are you?
You know, I really don't know the answer to that question. I'll let you make that decision when we get to the end of the report.
A little sleep deprived, I hear.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things, be careful what you wish for. Not wish for, I should say, but you know, on Friday's report, I had mentioned that we were going to be hunting down every last bit of consciousness we could find. And boy, was that rabbit hole a little bit more than I bargained for. Oh, and so we'll get into that in a minute. But first, we have to talk about the thing that everybody's talking about. Everywhere, everybody's talking.
Yep.
And so we're going to just go through these. Some of these clips are just clips we found on the internet, so it's nothing real prolific here. But when you put them all together in a specific one, it kind of tells you a story. So we pulled a couple of these clips out for that specific reason, because I wanted to point out to people that things aren't often as they appear.
Yeah.
Some of the things, before we get into the videos, some of the things that were pointed out to me is there was a lot of back chatter about this attempted fake assassination for a while now. We've been talking about it for months. So it's not a surprise. The only surprise is how it kind of turned out. And, you know, it seems like the operatives are definitely playing the martyr card here in every way, shape, or form. Also creating division between Americans, those that are for and those that are against. And there's a lot of programming and a lot of social media programming that goes along with that. And you can't really stage an event like that and have the information go out that quickly. And actually, if you look at some of the news, if you were watching things real time, actually beat out the actual event itself.
Oh, jeez.
I know. God bless them. Well, you know, like you said, Sonny, I mean, you got those papers and you got to go report on it, you know. So we did get word that there was going to be something. Now, there are two things that have come up in back chatter. Number one, allegedly someone from Russia called the Trump administration or had lots of talks with the people, the operatives behind the Trump thing, whatever that is, and said that there was going to be an assassination attempt. Now, the reason why is because at that point they had not yet figured out who was going to be blamed. And at the time, Russia was ripe for the picking to be blamed for this assassination attempt. And that happened weeks ago. Now, several days ago, there was some kind of an intelligence briefing that went out to all of the presidential campaigns saying that there's a lot of talk about an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. Therefore, Robert Kennedy canceled a lot of his campaigning for a short period of time. During the duration, they were expecting something to happen. So did Jill Stein, and a few of the other candidates did as well. Whatever that is, walking around in the White House also canceled some of their things. That's not a surprise. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to really kill a computer-generated image, but hey, you never know what can happen. You never know what's going to happen over there.
Yeah.
So this, however, was not entirely unexpected, but it was concerning when I actually heard that it was happening. It was concerning to me because, you know, you have a lot of people in this country that are true patriots, war veterans, people that carry guns, firearms, that really truly believe in this president. Right. And matter of fact, I was on a phone call with a friend of mine whose husband is pretty much, you know, a normal kind of person. And when he got word of it, we happened to be on a call, and it was disconcerting because this person also owns some guns and that kind of thing. And he said he's going to go and shoot everybody's house that has a Biden thing, you know, in front of their front lawn. And, you know, he didn't end up doing anything, but, you know, it just goes to show you, you know, this is kind of an older guy. It's not a younger guy by any means. Yeah. But what are people going to do? What is going to be the response? And of course, social media has been ablaze with those saying the Democrats are to blame. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason for concern here for me is because this mimics Ronald Reagan, 1981. This mimics JFK Jr. and, you know, the beginnings of the Cold War and those types of things. So there's a lot of, you know, Vietnam shortly thereafter, because it usually goes in a sequence of events. There is also a lot of chatter about 9 countries, including the United States, being fully bankrupt, and I don't disagree with that fact. I know that there was a lot riding on today for those people, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And, you know, my concern was what is next. I've heard about other political killings in the Middle East that were on the list of back chatter coming from Trump operatives, and a few other things that would have sparked World War III. The other thing that I heard about was that initially in the news, in some news channels, they were reporting this was a Chinese national in the very beginning, and then that quickly got wiped. And then there was also talk about, you know, being of the Middle East origin and that kind of thing. Then that got wiped out. Now he's just a regular guy from Pennsylvania, or is he?
Right. You're talking about the shooter, the alleged shooter.
The alleged shooter, yes. So let's take a look at some things I'm sure you've seen over and over and over again, and maybe some of them you haven't seen. But let's talk about the first bystander that started talking to every reporter that there is, coincidentally.
Who was here? You weren't inside the event, but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw.
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us at the Brinkles Farming Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees out there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up. And probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking, I'm estimating here, I have no idea, you know, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him.
Yeah. So allegedly, this person just happened to be at the same location that happened to be beside a building where apparently a potential presidential candidate, or not a potential, but a presidential candidate that he supports, clearly. He's got orange hair. He's got the whole orange gig going on, the hat, the whole deal, got to be on camera with all the garb because everybody walks around like that all the time, don't they? And then, you see this guy up there. I mean, come on now. Wouldn't you have called 911? Wouldn't you have called, you're not just going to yell, hey,
Well, and he's also making the police that he allegedly was trying to flag down, he's making them sound ridiculous, which is part of the narrative that is out there right now, that it's not the Secret Service's fault, allegedly, if this even went down, that it's not the Secret Service's fault, that they were blaming it on police. So this kind of goes along with that narrative of, was the police, even this man on the street said, they saw this guy with a rifle and the police didn't do anything about it. Right?
Yeah, we should probably play that propaganda video at some point again. Glittering headlines, man on the street. I support so-and-so for president, and I knew Johnny since he was a little boy, and, the whole thing. And, this is another case of man on the street. But we have another man on the street. So let's see what he had to say.
Saying before, I saw for 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, like you were talking about in that BBC interview, there was 20 Secret Service agents running around like chickens with their heads cut off in that field. And you're telling me snipers on the barn can't see this guy 100 yards? Doesn't add up to me.
Yeah. Timothy, thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, your eyewitness account is important, and thank you for being here. I'm glad you're safe.
Okay.
Kind of surprised they ran that, actually.
Yeah, exactly. But did they, or, yeah. But I'm sure they expected it to be taken a different way. But, when you're already starting to look at something skeptically, we look at this and we say, how did everybody else see it? But the people that were supposed to see it didn't allegedly see it.
Exactly.
It could be because they looked at it and said, oh, that's one of our guys. We'll get into that in a minute. I know. Okay. Yeah, no kidding, right? But I did want to make a note about the way Trump allegedly looks a few minutes after being picked up.
Okay.
So, meaning they picked him up off the ground. He does the whole fist bump, does several photo ops, because everybody that gets shot in the head is not disoriented in any way, shape, or form. I mean, even a graze by the ear like that will knock your equilibrium off. You can't hear anything. You hear high-pitched tones. I mean, it literally wrecks you, number one. Number two, that's pretty much just cartilage and soft tissue. And from talking to some other people, as well as my own thoughts here too, is that if you have a soft tissue wound with a bullet, and ballistics will tell you that it still would have, the top of his ear would have been flapping off.
Oh gosh.
Wow. It's just such soft tissue, and it's cutting like a knife. I mean, it's coming from a long ways away, the velocity and speed of the bullet and that kind of thing. This is something that all snipers know. They know about velocity, wind, when the right time is to shoot, that kind of stuff, how long it takes to get there. All these are calculations that you learn if you've ever been in the military or anything like that. Now, next thing I want to point out here is the amount of blood Sonny, have you ever like split your lip or had really bad chapped lips and you split your lip? And I mean, that sucker just bleeds like nobody's business. I mean, you look like you have been in a massacre when any part of your face is cut, like severely cut, not just like I scratched myself with my nails or something. But your face has so much blood flowing to your head, your brain, your face, your neck, your jugular veins right there. But when you get a more severe injury, like myself, I have put my whole front teeth through my lip at one point in time. And I have 10 stitches and I still have a scar there to prove it. But I mean, I had it all down my shirt, all over my, even just going from outside where the incident happened to a place where I could get a towel, a bathroom, a restroom, some place where I could get a towel. I mean, I was covered. It just bleeds like crazy. And this was a number of years ago. So, but I can tell you right now that the amount of blood that is shown there is not a real situation. Because if anybody watching this has ever been in the military, anybody ever seen anybody get a bullet graze allegedly in the ear or face or any other part of your body, you'll know that especially on the head, if you've ever been into a fight, you ever fell down, ever went over the handlebars as a kid on your bike, you know what I'm telling you is true. It just looks like, you are bleeding more than, and then you kind of get down to the injury and it's a small little, quarter of inch cut, but you look like, massive damage has been done. So I'm not buying it. Not buying that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, even a graze on the ear where you'd be disoriented, you'd be hearing tones. And then you certainly, the first thing that you would be thinking at that time is, where is my shoes? And how in the hell did you lose your shoes in the first place? Because that also makes sense.
Also, the amount of opportunities for, like, you could tell he'd been prepped before about getting the good shots that the media can use afterward, right? Because if there are bullets flying at me and if I am grazed, on my ear or whatever, the first thing I think of is getting out of a huddle with Secret Service and throwing my arm up in the air, in some sort of movement, like, we're going to get them, let's rally the crowd. If this were real, he'd be getting out of there. And I don't know what the Secret Service were doing, why they stayed there so long with him. Like, you usher them out, you get them out.
Yeah. Well, not only that, he actually got down on the ground himself.
Oh.
And then they huddled all in. I mean, it was seconds, but still, totally the world's a stage. I'm sure anybody in the military or anybody in the police force or, retired police, whatever, watching this will say, oh my gosh, no, if you've ever been shot, even a graze, this is not how your body is going to react. And this is not, not a thing, especially for a man as old as he is, in your 70s. Okay.
One thing, Kim, that I found interesting. So, I'm staying with my family and they are Trump supporters. Okay. So I kind of got a message on Telegram that some stuff was going down and I mentioned something to them and everyone rushed to the TV, right, to watch what was going on. What I found was interesting is that they're asking really good questions. They're actually saying that doesn't make sense. Like, how did this happen? That's not making sense. But the moment I say something about maybe it really didn't happen, it's like, there's only, it's the cognitive dissonance sets in, right? It's like, oh, it can't be that. It's like people are picking up on clues, but people are not adding two and two together, which I find I guess I'm not surprised by, but I'm frustrated by, because I'm like, gosh, you're on a roll. Keep going with that. Keep asking questions about why this happened and why that didn't happen. Like that kid, I'm going to call him a kid, that little soundbite that we played from that guy is like, hey, I'm not buying it. I wish more people would put two and two together. It's a little frustrating.
Well, it's kind of, you kind of get to this point where you are questioning. As an average everyday person now, people are seeing a lot more. But then there's this internal fight that you have. Because if this was faked, what kind of a man am I believing in that's going to save America?
Yep.
You know, like it would be almost as bad at this point, and I'm sorry to say it, but it's kind of true. It would be almost as bad as playing footage from 2000 BC and Jesus walking off the cross going, all right, cut. You know?
Right, because they are treating him like a savior, whether they'll admit it or not. Someone has to save us from Biden. Trump's our guy, right?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, nobody looks at any other candidates from any other party, you know. Yeah. So this is all you got. You know, it's like it's actually a process that they teach you in sales school called guided discovery. If you are selling multiple, like for example, I worked for a bank many years ago, and I went to a 2-week sales school, and the things you can say, of course, there's compliance. You have to, but they also give you some suggested techniques in order to upsell your customers so they have more bank products. Move your car loan over here, you know, from the other, we'll give you a better rate. If this checking account, maybe an annuity, an IRA, you know, that kind of thing. So they teach you to only present 2 options. Would you like option A, which is the full package of all our products we offer? We'll help you move them all over, the whole thing. Or option B, which is just a couple of less, you know, a couple products less. Maybe you don't want an IRA, maybe you don't want a car loan, but this is the one for you. And very few people, surprisingly, will tell you no. And if they do, then you flip it over and you give options C, D, and E.
Yeah.
And that is what you're told to do when you work for a bank and, you know, you're upselling products and stuff at the time. So it's the same thing with presidential candidates and everything else. You're taught it's, you know, if you want fast food, you're only going to McDonald's or Burger King. Which one would you like? And the same thing with Republicans and Democrats. Well, we've had many other parties out there, and we still do, you know, and there are candidates you've probably never even heard of, but no one bothers to look. So,
yeah.
Okay, next, let's talk about the location of the purported shooter.
Okay.
And we've got a little bit of a map for that.
So, Kim, explain this to us. What exactly were you looking at here?
Okay. All right. So what we're looking at is the blue dot here is the Trump stage. That's where he's actually standing. So you would see him facing outward towards the longer part of this rectangle on this farm area, and the buildings would be behind him. Is what you would see. So he's facing out this way. So you can see that the shooter is off to allegedly his right-hand side.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And it's not that far away. It's a clear line of sight. For you to set up an AR-15 or other type of an assault rifle or something that's going to fire from that many yards away, you are definitely going to see that. You know, and then we'll show you a little bit more here in a minute on the recoil that you would get from a gun like that. But you can see that it's a fairly clear line of sight. In a normal circumstance, most of the Secret Service would have been on those rooftops behind them. You would have had some over there off to the right. You know, you would have scouted at the entire area. For a president to travel anywhere, even a former president or a potential presidential candidate, they are there 2 weeks ahead of time, always. So, and they don't leave. They send in what they call the scouts, and they stay there for 2 weeks ahead of time, planning and plotting and looking at all possible avenues. That's their job.
Right.
So for them not to see this as a potential issue is ridiculous. Both people that are quote unquote bystanders say that they saw the guy. Everybody saw the guy. They said Secret Service was running around on the ground like crazy people. Why didn't anybody else see the guy? He was there for a while, allegedly. Now, it's going to get uglier here. Next clip.
Let's start from the beginning. This is the Secret Service. There's another one here. This guy right now has his sniper rifle on the so-called shooter. All right. Problem I have with that is if he sees the shooter, they should tell all the Secret Service agents to get Trump out of there. Did they do that? No. That the sound of the bullets that hit Trump came from his own Secret Service agent, or whoever the sniper for working for him, on this roof, and he's firing 400 feet away to another sniper that works for them. Here we go. We're going to hear this guy fire, and he's going to go down saying he got the bullet.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that shot. That shot's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Down. Okay? 3 shots came from this gun. No bullets went into that direction. Let's play it again.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that shot. That shot's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
That's 1. You see the gun move? That's 1 bullet. There's 2. And 3. You saw the gun move 3 times. And Trump is down. So the sound of the bullets came from this sniper. Told you, didn't I? Came from this guy's gun. You see the guy shoot 3 times, you see the gun flinch 3 times, and you've seen him come down. Did you hear any other bullets come from the other direction? No, you can't. Why? Because this guy supposedly just shot him.
Wonder who was recording that.
I know. Well, everybody's got a cell phone these days.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's leaking information these days. So, I mean, who knows? You know, but the point was there were no other shots fired prior to the alleged Secret Service agent firing bullets, right? Now, the other thing is those guns do have a lot of recoil. In other words, you see the kickback. But normally people that would handle such a rifle would actually be able to handle such a rifle, because you can see that the second shot probably went down into the ground. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did not hit his target, I can tell you, with the second or third bullet for sure. But nobody fired first.
Right.
And why, if that kind of situation was going on, they all have earpieces.
I know.
That's not just for the movies. Of course they do. Why didn't anybody tell them to immediately get the president off the stage? Mm-hmm. Immediately, shooter, alert, or get him down or something, you know. But then the 3 shots allegedly were fired. He allegedly grabs his ear from that point and then falls to the ground.
Yeah.
Were there 3 other shots? No, doesn't appear to be. But we have some more information. Before I show this video to you, I want to tell you a story. Now, this was a situation where I had actually gone to California, and I think I might have told part of the story before. I had gone to California to go meet with, at the time, one of Obama's aides. Now, this is when I didn't know really that, you know, presidents were evil and, you know, gee, this guy could be a good guy, but no. I met with one of his, I used to call her by the code name Psychic, because when I met with her, she was obviously not 100% right. But anyway, so I leave this meeting, and I thought the meeting went okay, you know, but apparently it didn't, because the next morning I go back to my hotel that night, go probably grab some dinner, and then the next morning I get up and I go down to the lobby where there was a Starbucks. Mm-hmm. In the lobby, and they opened at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, this is like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I go down to get a cup of coffee, and there's all these guys that are clearly not your regular people that hang out and get coffee at a Hilton at 6:30 in the morning, you know, 6:30 in the morning. So one guy is about 6'5", older guy, tall, bald, you know, I mean, I could pick the guy out of a crowd of 1,000 today, because that's just me. The other guy was a younger guy, clearly a guy probably in training, couldn't have been more than 25 years old, that kind of thing. And then I see about 4 or 5 more in different areas reading a magazine, you know, and, you know, all the kind of normal crazy stuff you actually see in a movie, but it's real. Like sometimes that happens, yeah. At least when you're dealing with people like this. So I turn around, I got my coffee, and I see the older guy signal to the younger guy to move. And what he did was he flipped his hat, tugged on his hat like 3 times or whatever it was, and then kind of wiped his forehead like he was sweating or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the guy gets up and moves. I'm like, okay, so there's something going on here and I'm a part of it and I don't really like this. So I called somebody. So I was on the phone with another person, just chit-chatting about this and that, because you never know what's going to happen until I could try to figure out where I was going to go and what I was going to do. So I walked outside a little bit, and, there's never a day where, the streets, and never a time really where the streets of Long Beach, California are not busy, at least to some degree, And so I walked out there. I kind of was walking around. I was looking for a bank is what I was looking for, because in these particular type areas, all banks have a direct feed on their video cameras in the parking lots. That goes straight to the FBI. So I thought, well, at least they'll get the footage. Not like they're probably not in on it together, but who knows, but it's less likely that something's going to happen if you do pull, and that is a public safety thing. So, ladies or anyone, if you ever feel like you're being followed or in trouble, pull into a bank parking lot, or, if you can find one. Also, Walmart parking lots are also direct feeds to the FBI as well, because they find more criminals shop at Walmart than anywhere else. No, seriously, that was actually the statement that was made to me. I'm like, why is this a direct FBI feed? What are you talking about? And they said, well, because more criminals shop at Walmart than anywhere else. Apparently you steal somebody's money or rob a bank and you go straight to Walmart and get yourself a TV. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, the point is that, and then the other guy kind of hangs back, and you can see him there kind of following to see if the other guy is getting close enough to me. But it turns out after a, let's just say, interesting and unpleasant conversation, this young man was supposed to spray me with what they call a tracking spray. And a tracking spray can mean a number of different things in this world, but for regular people, it's basically something they spray on you where they can actually detect where you are at all times, your clothes. So it never actually happened and whatever. But the signaling thing is a real thing when, there's no communication or talking or an ability to do that, and you're running some kind of operation you clearly shouldn't be.
Right.
So let's talk about signaling, because this is really interesting. And please excuse the background person talking over this video. There is some swearing, so just forewarning.
No, watch this shit, dude. Watch. Watch. She sits down. Yep. Watch this.
If you want to
puts the sign up.
Something that said, take a look at what happened.
Shots go off.
She's completely normal, and then watch.
And then she's got her.
What the fuck? What the fuck? People are freaking out.
And she's filming.
And she's just right there. She's not even freaking the fuck out. What the fuck?
Wow.
So the point is that this lady's sitting there calm as a cucumber. She sits down. She looks over in the direction of where the alleged shooter was, holds up the sign, brings it up pretty high, remains calm. So who was she looking at? Was she looking at the Secret Service guy? Was the shooter one of theirs? That's what this other guy claims. Who knows? And it's now time. Then immediately after she picks up that sign, then the bullets. You hear the 3 shots.
Yeah. And then she starts recording.
Well, because she knew there was no bullets flying in that direction. Everybody else was concerned. They were also going to get shot. And probably also concerned about the presidential candidate. Yeah. But, I mean, this lady didn't even move. Nothing.
Wow.
Let me videotape this so I can have the most popular TikTok channel in the world. I'm sure she was thinking, right? No. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, more signs were being scammed. there is a tweet that had gone out multiple places. It went out through the 17 letter people. It went out through this other channel here, Balthor. It went out for the currency reset on Rumor Mill News. It's been seen. But let's take a quick look at this. This one here, I think, is from Valiant Thor, which reposts everything that's on the currency reset. And this was actually posted, I think, yesterday. No, today, this morning. It says, the movie is just about over. Now it's time for the Great Awakening, a week to remember. Trust the plan. The attempted assassination of President Trump were shots heard around the world. No need to panic, all planned. They're telling you. These are from the Q people. These are the Trump people. These are your secret space program people. They're telling you that we planned all this. That the potential events for the rest of the week were also, quote unquote, all planned. But to get what type of a response? You know, and then this shooter guy, this alleged guy that is just the enemy of America, he is just killing the savior, all this kind of stuff, also took the time, to act in a BlackRock commercial. Here we go.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and Honors Economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say, that guy made this place a special place to come to school and gave as much as he could to help the community.
Okay, so question, because I've heard different reports, at least what's being reported in this area is that it was a young kid, like, I don't know, not even of age yet, under 21, that was being blamed for firing the shot. Has that narrative changed?
It changes quite rapidly these days.
It's like maybe they saw the BlackRock commercial and were like, oh, crap, we can't have that actor. We got to change this.
Well, and then, I mean, as it was happening, like within minutes, they automatically said it was a Chinese national. I find myself being reminiscent of that bridge explosion, on the border between U.S. and Canada. No, it's a Saudi passport. No, it's an Iranian passport. I don't know. There's a passport there, and they're from the Middle East, and I guarantee you, because they're from the Middle East, they must be a terrorist.
Yeah.
Which country are we going to blame? That's all it really is. How do we get the most bang for our buck here? Why say that this guy is underage?
And dead, so you can't get any information out of it, really. It can't be questioned or whatever. It's another thing they love to do. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, if they were alive. It's like buying a cheap pair of something or others and then go to return it and the company's out of business. Well, sorry.
I know.
And that's kind of how I feel with this situation. I mean, it really is so bad. And with the situation that happened with Reagan, with the situation that happened with JFK, we didn't have social media then. We didn't have, the last time they pulled this stunt was in the 80s. We didn't have all this stuff now. We didn't have YouTube. Everybody has a phone with a video camera on it. We definitely didn't have that back in those days in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we had some big clunky video cameras back then that were home cameras. But most people didn't have them, and they were very expensive and whatnot at the time. So, we've got so much information going everywhere right now. You know, it's the same thing with the grassy knoll, and, you know, the shots were fired from a different angle. There's no way, you know, that the guy on the grassy knoll, but he just happened to spend a whole stint in Russia and, you know, loves communism, and then came back to America to sit on a grassy knoll and shoot the president, and nobody noticed that either.
Right.
You know, I mean, and that was ridiculous back then. You know, and the conspiracies have run wild since, you know, the early 60s on who shot JFK. They talk about it all over the media. So are they going to talk about this quite a bit? I'm going to tell you that the Duck Dynasty is already on that. They've got everybody out there, you know, probably paid a few $100 here and there. Basically saying that, you know, hey, you know, you do this little video influencer person. I think it's like $60 for a video like that on TikTok. It doesn't cost you much. And these people are out of money. So that about fits. And, you know, and then they'll take those average everyday persons, and a whole lot of them, for $60 a pop. And they'll all make a video about, we hate the Democrats, you know, go Trump. Now I'm definitely voting for Trump, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so cheesy.
Yeah.
You know, of course, you need some wine with that cheese too, you know. And the wine actually was an interesting chain of events that happened over the weekend here behind the scenes. So the wine part came, and I didn't quite get it at the time, but they were high-fiving each other, you know, the Trump operatives, and basically saying, now look at all the money that's going to come rolling in. Well, the following morning, they didn't get the donations they thought they were going to. Number one, anybody that has any kind of money of significant amounts, like $30,000, $30 million, $20 million, knew about this ahead of time. They all have intelligence agencies where they are. You know, nobody has that kind of money. And we certainly don't have that kind of money as average everyday citizens, you know, most of us anyway. And if you do, you're probably in on the in crowd. Meaning you knew the jig is up, you knew, you know, what's going to happen next, and, you know, where are you going to put your money from here, you know, to preserve yourself or whatever it is, and that the banking system's going to crash. And as far as average everyday persons, they really didn't get a whole lot of donations at all. I mean, like, not at all. I really, truly think they overestimated the support that this guy has at this late stage in the game. You can only be told, you know, Peter and the Wolf, that the guy is coming back so many times before he's not.
Yeah.
And you've got a few diehards out there that will consistently talk about it because it makes them money on YouTube, or it makes them money on Rumble. You know, and sometimes the truth is unpopular, and I'm okay with being unpopular as long as I'm not lying to anybody. Next, there was also a lot of talk amongst these folks as to who to blame. So the round and robin game about young guy, old guy, this is the guy, that's the guy, is no surprise here, because they don't know how to get the most bang for their buck. But they were also expecting a large influx of money to take place over the weekend based on things that they saw happening that they thought was going to yield them a different result. And this is where the worst part of the whole weekend comes in. But nonetheless, nothing worked out the way that they thought it was going to work out. They were told that bottom drop dead date would be today for them to see the final changes, which didn't happen. But you know, I am going to say that now I would say a lot more makes sense to me. Like, how do they know this stuff? Why do they think there's going to be a quantum flip? What actually is that anyway? And be tied to Trump operatives because they're SSP, their secret space program. They're from thousands of years old organizations that have a lot of hidden knowledge that we are not privy to. And there's a reason why they have that hidden knowledge. So without further ado, let me give you a little bit more of an update on what happened on Friday.
Okay.
So, and Thursday. Started Thursday night. It energetically wise and everything else wise was probably one of the worst weekends I've had in months. since a lot of the changeovers. So on Friday, our biggest concern was what we were seeing was another 2 steps back. And I don't mean, nobody got into our system or anything like that. So that's all safe. But 2 steps back, I mean, it looked like there was more dark matter coming in than going out. Mm. And when we go from 98, 99% to 100%, and then we're down to, in the 70%, I'm like, what is going on here?
Right.
So that gauge tells me something is about to, what I call, throw up, or a standing order from the past, which starts creating things in the future. Mm. So I'm watching where these people are going. This is on Friday. And I'm looking for the consciousness. So be careful what you wish for, because you just might find it. And it was good. I'm glad it happened, but it was probably, when you want to teach your kids lessons or something, you hope that they're not too painful. Well, apparently Source doesn't necessarily think in that same manner. But it's okay. We're going to roll with this. So the first thing I caught was Saturday morning, and these people were at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange doing a maneuver that looked similar to an event that happened prior to 9/11. In other words, vans, unmarked cars going in and out underneath the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Like, what the heck are they doing? Now, this situation was a potential location where I thought we were going to have another 9/11 moment with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And I'm saying it in case they are still planning on it, because they're still planning on 2 more events this week, and I haven't quite figured out what they are, other than some esoteric things that we're talking about now. But it turns out they're moving in some equipment that they had found or had that had been given to them by the Abraxas for a time, quote unquote, such as this. So they were switching out old equipment that was in there, moving in this equipment, because they thought that the big event that they were waiting to happen this weekend was, of course, financial system takeover and all of this kind of stuff. Now, again, I will repeat what I said on Friday. These people are either really stupid or the most evil sons of beepers on the planet. Now I'm beginning to think they're the most evil sons of beep on the planet that there is. And there's a definitive reason for that. So from that location, that led us to a few other places in the world, one of which was in Maine, actually. We also went to a place in Cincinnati, the Spring Grove Cemetery. We went to Albania in a national park there, Butrint, I think it's pronounced. We were also in Stolac, looking at some medieval tombstones. We went to a lot of grave sites. And some of the places were places that they were, and some of them were places that they were not. We also went to Kazakhstan, Turkestan. We went to Kalispell, Montana. There's an area there. Afghanistan, Myanmar. And then we were off to find some more things. So underneath these particular locations, they're not the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, but some of the other ones, there were some large machines, and the chatter from the people that were working in there that, they were lab coats, they were scientists of some sort, was that this was like an event that had not happened for thousands of years. Turns out the last time this happened was 250,000 years ago, and it's what gave the 5 owners or 6 owners of Earth an extension for 250,000 years. We were supposed to be out of the dark age 250,000 years ago.
Wow.
And this was meant to set us back. So back to consciousness. It's important to understand. So consciousness transfer isn't just for consciousness. Some beings in the multiverse were allowed to actually do a full being split. Kind of like if you've ever seen a starfish, if it cuts off its leg, it'll grow another leg, and then a whole starfish will grow out of the other piece of the starfish. Well, there are certain beings in the multiverse that had permission to do the same. And the same they actually did. Some of those beings, being Marduk, Enki, Enlil, Anu had the ability. Lucifer had the ability to do that. And there are a few others. We're going to go over here in just a second. So not only were there large pockets that we were finding on Friday and Saturday of, it's almost like a being without shape and form is the best way I can describe it. It has all the characteristics without having, and it does have physical matter to it. It does. You can actually see it with your own eyeballs. It's not like, it's like an esoteric kind of thing, like, oh, it's just in the ether. No. It actually has shape and form. If you are very connected, you would see these things kind of like you see the Tarzakians. And the Tarzakians are the smoky beings that you see out of the corner of your eye, the moving shadows where there's nothing to be a shadow of. But these things are much more dense and larger.
Okay.
The Tarzakians look at the way that they look because they are 8th density lower astral beings, which means they are etheric. So you're actually seeing an etherical being in your home or around some other people. I see them around as protectors almost for some pretty dark beings. So these folks here were allowed to do that to some degree, meaning they could occupy multiple spaces at the same time. I would say the only one that was different of that particular group would have been Lucifer. Now, Lucifer and a few other demons here, Baal, Baphomet, Belial, yeah, we're in the bee people, Asmodeus, Andromedus, if I'm saying that right, Beelzebub, Mamun, Astaroth, and Azazel, these demons had the ability to split like a starfish.
Wow.
So we call them demons on the one hand, and then we call them demonlets. So, well, to some degree, because eventually, even out of the leg of the starfish, an entire starfish grows.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these beings could inhabit a human being. They could inhabit beings anywhere all the way up to the 6th density. They could act alone and not even be in a human. They just don't grow as fast.
Okay.
So being in a human, having that energy source allows them to grow faster. They, of course, try to make deals all the time. And sometimes people with egos buy it. They allow for the to be inhabited by one of these beings, and therefore you become part of it. And it's like a way to have your very own ball, so to speak, collective consciousness. It could also inhabit a planet.
Wow.
And have influence on the creation or destruction of that planet. It will also have a computer program attached to it for every single soul that it splits off. Now, these beings are old. They've been around for billions of years. This is not new. Imagine how many little starfishlets they made during this time frame, and it's an awful lot. Now, don't pass out or anything, but it turns out that 25% of the people on this planet have a soulet from one of these beings.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Would they know it?
Yes, they absolutely know it because I don't know. When we spoke to Agent M, and he was talking about his discussions with Mayor Rothschild.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't tell you, I'll have him come back on and explain it to you on what it's like when you're talking to one of these people. It's almost like you're talking to two different people.
Yeah.
Now, once you're a walk-in, or you make yourself available to these people, I should say, when you make yourself available to these people, then the next step is anyone can walk in. Now, the next part that's interesting, and this is probably the reason why most people think of black magic, they think of this being done at night or on holidays, which is true to some degree. So at nighttime, after sunset, the soul that's in that person can actually leave the person and exist out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's when they do their work. Now, it's always dark somewhere. It's always night somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they can do their work. They do work not for that person. They do work for the demon that sent them into that person. However, they are promised a certain amount of power and control for having this demon up in there. But as Agent M will tell you, that the voice changed when he was talking to him one time. He said that, you know, Lucifer doesn't mean anything to me, and this was Agent M, of course. And he was trying to sell him.
Yeah.
Because it's all about getting people to buy so that you too can become a starfishlet of a demon, you know?
Right.
I don't know what to call these things. They break off and then become a whole second being.
Wow.
So it's weird. But he said his voice immediately changed, and he said, "I am Lucifer."
Mm-hmm.
He started to tell him things about himself and those types of things, which nobody would actually know. It's not like it's, you know, in an intelligence file or anything like that. I mean, these are things, you know, where they try to hit your button to get you kind of to go down,
mm-hmm.
so to speak. But the same thing that I felt with Marduk, it was like, what is it you desire? You know, they're always trying to sell you something, and it usually comes in one of the following flavors. So there is control over your own soul. You know, that's one thing. There is also a soul influencing. You can control souls. You can collateralize those souls. You can get other people to sell their souls to us, and we will make a deal with you. In this case, you're probably talking to Baal, the controller of frequency, the controller of, get this, the sound of silence.
I think there was a song called that.
Was a song.
Yeah.
You'd be better off singing it if everybody's going to hang up if I try. Well, because it's a frequency, you know, everybody thinks frequencies, you know, and they think about these tones that they play sometimes and that kind of thing, both positive, healing, and negative. And a lot of that would come from Baal. He was the frequency manipulator, and with frequency, you can manipulate matter on an etherical level that will eventually influence your physical person. You know, it'll make a physical change in the world, but it's mainly used for etherical changes in your body. You feel it as a spiritual change sometimes if they're positive frequencies. This goes in the other direction. It was a lot of power to manipulate the way things work in the world, because everything has an etherical control. It's one of the highest planes. You can change somebody's mind. You can do things like inception. You know, what is it that you want? My last run-in with Baal, other than in the last 48 hours, Balettes. I had Baal and Balettes. My last run-in was where things started changing. It would have been February of, I think that's 2020. If I recall. And the argument at the time was that he was basically telling me about all the wars he helped start, all of the leaders he tore down, all that kind of thing, all the changes he made in the world. And I felt like I was watching an infomercial or one of those video resumes kind of thing, because he was offering me all kinds of stuff. And I said, no, thank you. I've got this.
Yeah.
You know, and, but I didn't really run into the rest of them, at least not that I'm aware of, until, you know, the last 3 or 4 days, because at the same time, the certain people with the, you know, the Q people out there were talking about quantum flip, it's happening, that kind of thing, and the increase of dark matter, who was actually doing the increasing and where was it coming from? And that was the frustration you were hearing in my voice on Friday. So it turns out that all of these beings and their consciousness and their consciousness-lets, their little lets, their babies, I don't know what you call them, because a lot of them aren't babies anymore. They look just like the original now. They've been up in there so long. And it's not just humans on Earth. This is throughout the multiverse that this can happen. So it's a lot of beings that had an infection. The next one I had run into, the one that I found the most interesting, let's start with that, was Beelzebub.
Okay.
His main presence here on Earth was actually in Mount Kugrat, I hope I said that correctly, in Liechtenstein. It's spelled Kuhgrat. Beelzebub was actually the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings.
Well, that's not usually attributed to him. It's usually attributed to Jesus.
No, but unfortunately, remember how they twist everything around on you?
Yeah.
You know, he called himself the kingmaker. He was the controller of governments, political. His sector was the power center. Also family members. He would have been the one in charge of the family members, believe it or not. He was equal to, according to itself, equal to Lucifer in power. And he tried to sell me a lot of stuff. You know, he tried to sell me, we'll make you the king of whatever country you want, or queen, I should say, of any country you want. We'll, you know, we can do this. You want to have governments, I can give you governments. All you got to do is take this up in your body. I'm like, oh, no, my friend. You know, off you go. Off you go.
Wait, was this the proposal recently, or is this a long time ago this happened?
24 hours ago.
Oh, okay. So still wheeling and dealing after all these years.
Wheeling and dealing. That's Beelzebub. Not, don't get Beelzebub and Baal confused.
Yeah.
They like B words, apparently, you know, tongue twisters. So there was a lot of interesting conversations that we had. Now, another one you'll find interesting is Azazel. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not really good with these pronunciations. Azazel had a few different charges on this planet. And one of them was he was the controller of knowledge. And I know that because when I went to Stonehenge in England, where he was, that he tried to tell me he would give me knowledge beyond my wildest dreams. I can give it all to you. You'll know more than anyone in the whole world, so on and so forth. But the second thing that Azazel controlled was money. Greed and money. In the system, there was a program tied to him in there for money, what we call money, debt. The more of it you have, the more of a potential connection you have to Azazel. I know it's dastardly, and these were part of the curses that were on money. Now, those bankers that we know as banksters and those types of things, on the highest level, of course, not necessarily down the bottom, probably all have agreed to this second oath. This is how you got to 25%. That's a lot of people in the world. And we're talking about the high-level bankers. We're not talking about the people that are tellers at your bank and, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's just very interesting how not everybody tried to make a deal. Once we went through the first several of them, they eventually, it was like, well, okay, I'm out, Some of them didn't fight. Some of them did fight. These ones tried to negotiate. Maman, who happened to be in the ruins of Hatra in Iraq, he did fight. Yeah, he did fight. He promised me he was going to reign in hell and all this kind of stuff, and you're going to get this and you're going to get that, and I didn't listen.
Is this, Kim, telepathic communication? Like, how is this occurring, this interaction?
Well, and here's the thing. So there's one language that is the base root language for the entire universe. It's a light language. Mm-hmm. It is a series of frequencies that are spoken. It's the same language that folks up near source speak. It's the same language that they speak all the way down. It's just the base root language of the universe. And it's more of a frequency kind of thing. But if you don't speak that language, then 99% of the time, your communications between other races, other people are all telepathic. Everybody speaks telepathically. We are the only folks in probably the entire multiverse that does not.
Okay.
At least not all of us. Some of us do. Not all of us do. And we've been prevented from doing so, probably for that reason. So even if you're standing in front of someone face to face, 99% of the time it's telepathic. Mm-hmm. If you were standing in front of a Marduk, it would be tick, 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 tick. It's like you don't even, what is that? Like, it's not like you can go get a Rosetta Stone tape and before you go and have this meeting and, everything will work out. It doesn't work out that way. So, that's what we pretty much spent most of the day, Saturday and Sunday doing, was cleaning up messes and little Marduklets, which were in a few places in the world, along with Inky, Enlil, and Marduk. So I'm sorry, Inky, Enlil, Marduk, Artemis, and the Abraxas. So.
Okay, so how does that actually work? Because you said that they were, there are little versions of them in various places. So is there still a central being or something that is connected to all of those that you can get rid of one and all the littles go away? Or is it a matter of having to somehow get the littles?
Here's that theory, and we're living that theory right now, because yesterday it was all about finding all of these, what we thought was the main locations. So we found the main locations on Earth for each one of these. And then we found the main locations in our solar system, because they were on other planets as well.
Okay.
So then we looked down into the lower astral, and then we looked into computer programs, because each one had a piece of Omega which allowed them to replicate themselves, as well as control themselves in all of these locations. A place for standing orders, a place to give not only ones that were inhabited, but ones that were not inhabited could still make decisions. So why did we keep cleaning and cleaning and cleaning? I guess everything has its day in the sun, or its time to go. But these things were able to create. Why did some of the deep state feel like there was going to be an event on a certain day, and that there could possibly be a change or a flip? And that's because they have one of these beings up in there. Mm. And just like your fingers talk to your brain, vice versa, their being could be in the sixth density in some other planet somewhere. Their being could be mainly here on Earth. It could be someplace else in the Omegaverse. It could be anywhere. You never know where you're going to find it. It could be hidden in a little tiny crystal or a prism in the middle of space somewhere. It's a small soul cube or a soul prism or whatever it is that you don't even know where it could be. So it's hopefully the theory is if we get the main beings, then perhaps that will solve the problem with the rest of them. But I would say in the last 12 hours, I have seen a lot of glitching. I have seen an enormous amount of backlash. And I mean enormous. Part of the reason why I didn't sleep is we actually almost lost Agent M last night, my time. So then within a couple of hours of that, it was, now I'm having troubles here and there, and I've got to go out and search out what we're looking for here. I would say my experience is, was there a disturbing feeling? If, for example, if I cut your fingers off, your brain is going to be disturbed, your eyes are going to be disturbed, your body's going to feel disturbed, your neurological system is going to be feeling an enormous amount of pain throughout your body, that kind of thing. So I definitely know for sure, because it wasn't long after we cut off some, the main part, that everything else started to fight. All the little ones of all of these beings started coming out of the woodwork. Do they have the ability to jump out still? Yes, because they're beings unto themselves. Again, they grow another starfish. It's the best way I can describe it to you. Yeah. So they are autonomous. They can act as a team, as a group, or they can act alone. It's the best way I can describe it. So yes, the next round started at about midnight, a little after midnight last night, where we now had to clean them up, because now you have to go out there and you actually have to create something where they all go back to source and let source sort them out, because it didn't appear that they were going to stop. But the ones that were 100% infected with something or another, meaning they don't have anything left of their own soul, they have nothing left of their own being, are feeling the most amount of pain, and these would be your bloodline families, your bankers, as an example. There are others here that offer power, that kind of thing. There are some, if you read up on these different beings that we're talking about, there's a lot of talk about some control music, some control, so no surprise there, as far as what you see on TV and people disappearing and that kind of thing. And when their contract was up, to be completely gone, because soul contracts are definitely a real thing. And they tried, like I said, 3 of them tried to get me to enter into something with them, and that's an absolute no, from me.
It's interesting. And I know we were talking about this earlier before we started recording, but there have been, like, over the last handful of days, celebrities disappearing, dying, Yeah. Shannon Doherty passed away. Richard Simmons passed away. Was it Dr. Ruth? We were talking about Dr. Ruth passed away. I don't know. Do you think we might see more of this? Do you think this is somehow connected to that?
You never know with these people. I'm assuming that not all of the agencies were, infected, that there are regular people that work there. That being said, they're mask making factories. So I'm not sure if they're going to see, who needs to stay around, who's useful to them, who do they feel is going to play the part the best. There is also Dromalus. He was also in control of the physical plane. So could they make another person? Could they make themselves look as if they're the same person, if they need to keep them around?
Wow.
Could they mimic it? Could they show that it's so-and-so walking around if it's really not? Well, entirely possible. It's a lot of power.
Yeah.
So mainly, that is what we have been dealing with. And an interesting thing that happened, and I just thought I would mention it in case anybody felt kind of some weirdness Saturday, there was definitely a point where all these machines were firing until we found them all on Saturday, which sort of made you feel like you were maybe going into another dimension. Maybe you felt like you were out of sorts, out of reality, disconnected. I heard a lot of reports of that on Saturday, because these machines are actually capable of, obviously not human-made, but the humans were, or whatever was up in there was aware of it, and they were capable of ripping the fabric of reality to create voids in between spaces, or zeptoseconds. I mean, it's very small spaces in the fabric of reality, in our light fabric of reality, in order to allow darkness to creep in and then multiply.
Wow.
Yeah. The darkness that's put in there could be controlled by any one of the demons. So when we say that 25% are pretty well not people anymore, or they're going in and out of that person, whether it be by, you see, sometimes you can look at a person and they look different, that kind of thing. And then, they're really angry or something. And on top of that, now this is the part where I kind of fell off my chair, 80% had been infected in just 24, 48 hours by these machines.
Is that in addition to the would you say the 50%?
25%.
25.
Well, no, that's part of 25% is part of that.
Okay.
But a total of 80% had the fabric of reality separated to the point where it was ripe for one of these guys to come in and put an implant in there. Now, thing about things that they have influence over, they have influence over the mental plane, etherical plane. I mean, they say by consent, but what is consent? Receiving money? Could that be consent? I mean, it's very tricky with these folks and how they trick you to accepting something like that. Now, we've worked really hard to reverse a lot of that out, plus get the main beings that were responsible for it. Did we get them all? Not sure yet. Still working on it. This was as of yesterday, and this morning worked on it some more. We'll be working on it all afternoon and probably drinking a lot of tea or coffee.
So with the main beings, that you were targeting, is there any chance that they could somehow come back in another form? Or I know it's hard to answer these questions that this stuff was going on.
To answer your question, if it is completely gone back to source, if that actually happens, and we have no littlets out there, then I would say probably not without the permission of source. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because there's nowhere to get permission from, and their ship has sailed. And trying to trip the trigger to redirect us back, to set us back 250,000 years where we go into the dark ages is also not a permitted thing. So, it's painful. I mean, I guess everything in its own time. It's something we had to learn. I don't know. I'm frustrated.
Right.
But I do want to point out something as well for you, that meaning the people that are watching this, so they can understand how they do the things that they do. So when I approached and located Beelzebub there, the song that I heard playing at the time, because they try to convince you there's something positive. It's not the version of Hallelujah that's, you hear a lot in, like you heard in Shrek, and I don't know who sings the original one there. I know the Celtic Girls, but if you've been to church, there's a different version of Hallelujah. that you sing, hallelujah, praise Jesus, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and that kind of thing. I'm terrible at singing, Sonny. You should probably do this for me. You're way better at this than I am.
But I don't think I know the song.
You don't think you know it?
I don't think so.
He shall reign forever and ever. No.
I'm sure I've sang it a gazillion times. I can't remember.
I can't sing, I tell you. I didn't sign up for Baphomet's music program or whatever it is. So anyway, and the interesting part is he was pointing out the fact that billions of people in the world, are talking about him. Look at the great power I have.
When they think they're talking about Jesus.
Yeah. I know.
Wow.
Yeah. No, he was not Jesus, so don't take it out there. No, that's not being altogether. Okay. Yeah. So the other way that they use us, and we talked about this around Easter time, but I'm going to bring it up again because right now in the Islamic world, they are celebrating a holiday called Ashura. Now, at least that's the Shiite Muslims that do that. And basically, it's the mourning for about 40 days, and the high time being these 3 days here, 4 days. And how they celebrate this is it's almost like shaming themselves. It's shame and guilt for did I lose you?
No, I don't think.
It's shame or guilt for not being there when they murdered the grandchildren of Muhammad. So it's kind of like the Catholic extremists do. They, walk around with a cross on their back and that kind of thing during Easter time to, feel the pain of Jesus that, Jesus felt. And they're doing much the same thing. But these emotions and celebrating the death of a light being of any sort on this planet is basically what is causing some of the major disruption because the little demons and the demonettes love it. Now, one of the Beelzebub creatures that was in a man also employed, I'm not going to say employed, who knows if he paid him, probably not, but there were thousands of people in different countries all over the Middle East that he had using power in the worship of death, of the light, to propel their black magic and to grow the demonettes that were tiny, maybe they're just growing, to make them bigger, grow fully, so that they could fully inhabit everybody on the planet. Same thing happens during Easter when everybody's mourning the death. A lot of people are out collectively worshiping death, whether they know it or not. Now, it's not intentional on everybody's part, but you're basically mourning or celebrating a death that happened thousands of years ago. Albeit sad, you're still focusing your intention on death.
Well, I wonder, Kim, if there's any kind of tie-in there with this so-called assassination attempt, because what I am seeing, I'm having flashbacks of 9/11. Yeah, I'm having 9/11 flashbacks and how they would pick these images, right, and show it constantly and tell us about, danger and, death, and just focus on that constantly. So it feels like there's a tie-in as far as the timing of all this Trump stuff.
Again, now I'm going to take all of these things and I'm going to take it one step deeper so you understand how you can be manipulated and how to avoid that. The thing that's been happening for the last couple of weeks is we are reconnecting to the soul plane. We are reconnecting to our real records. You can access those types of things. When events happen here in the third density, all your attention goes from doing the wild wonders and amazing things that human beings can do right down to a 3D level. Here you are focusing all your energy and attention way down here. And if you're way down here, you can't be up there at the same time. You know, most people can't. Some can, some do. And that's part of it. But the other part of it, too, is it's preventing you from accessing all the wonders that are now acceptable to you, that are now out and available to you. It takes all these people from walking into a church, temple, or mosque and asking God for the things they want, connecting to God, connecting to by whatever name you call it, focusing on the needs of their family, of their lives, and thanking for the things that they do have, and all the things that we go to church when we say in our prayers, every day. It takes you from doing that to focusing on death for as long as 40 days in some cases. Mm-hmm. It's okay to feel that there was a person in history whose life you want to celebrate. That's different. But, mourning every year?
Yeah.
I don't think I would want that for my child if that ever happened to me or will ever happen. When that happens, I want her to celebrate. Do something fun.
It's like when people wear a crucifix. Like when you see Jesus hanging from a cross.
Yeah.
It's like, gosh, that's rough.
Well, exactly, and you're sitting there, whether you know it or not, but you're walking around with the guy that did some pretty cool stuff here, and you're walking around with him dead. It's like
it's almost celebrating that, yeah.
Well, it's like having a necklace made of a car crash if one of your family members died in a car crash. That's ridiculous. Who does that? No one takes a picture of the car crash and has a statue made of the actual crash. Why do we do the things we do sometimes? Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, like, as far as events like this, it's meant to drag you down and keep you lower than you need to be or should be or want to be. It keeps you looking in the 3D for what's next, too, because everybody has a prediction about today, as an example. Was there some pretty crazy things that happened today? I'm going to say yes, there was. But it was 5, 6, 7 hours, 8 hours later. It's okay. Everything's okay. You'd be surprised what you can achieve, you personally can achieve, when you can connect to that plane or any of the other ones in between. You'll have a better understanding of yourself, of those around you, spouses, family members, other people that you have to interact with at work or choose to interact with in your private life, in clubs, whatever it is you do. But it's that connection that will help you understand yourself, help you understand your power, and help you through the next phase of what's going to happen here. Don't let anybody drag you down into this hot mess. It's clearly a hot mess out there.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to be talking about it. Can't remember what was the other event that happened. Everybody was talking about it, just dissecting it, and video after video after video. And I'm like, come on, people.
I know.
This is just another day ending in Y, another martyrdom act of, if they're not being convicted of this. And now everybody's going to vote for Trump because Trump got shot in the face.
Jeez.
But I can't help but think you might have struck a nerve with a bunch of veterans out there, because anybody who's, shot or seen somebody get shot or, I'm telling you, there ain't enough blood there if you get hit in the head and an ear or whatever it is to make that real.
Right.
Then we just saw guys shooting in the opposite direction. Only 3 shots fired. So I don't know. I don't really care. Actually, I only did this for you guys. Honestly, I looked at it and I laughed. I'm like, here we go.
I know.
Raise some money, probably from a demon. I don't know.
Jeez.
I know. God bless them all. Now he's touched by the hand of God and,
Yeah.
Oh, God. I know.
Yeah, just in time for the Republican National Convention. I'm sure
I
that
know.
was just
And
a
there's
coincidence too.
I know. And there's a speech today at 11 Eastern time. So
how about
already
that?
Started, Sonny, now.
Oh, I missed it? Oh, man.
Oh, I'm sure you can play it back, and there'll be a big Band-Aid, maybe one with a flower like, your kids get, that kind of thing. Maybe it'll be The Simpsons, a Simpson Band-Aid. That would be fitting.
Wouldn't that be funny?
I know. All right. Well, that's about what I can share with you for Monday. So hopefully we'll have a better week than allegedly everybody's saying, because it's all planned according to... I know. It's all planned. Way to go.
It's the end of the movie, according to Q. Gotta end with a big shebang.
Yeah, everybody gets the demon for you. It's like the Oprah show.
You get a demon, and you get a demon. You get a demon. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, we're good over here. We're good.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah. I'm on a demon-free diet, personally.
All right. Well, thank you for the update, Kim.
Thanks, Sonny.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with people you care about. That's also where you'll find our UNN Meme of the Day, a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the face of news together.
And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so together we can share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.